Rdio was the kind of product people remember differently from most failed startups. Not because it became huge, not because it changed the market forever under its own name, but because, for a certain kind of music listener, it felt unusually right. It was clean, it was elegant. It made music streaming feel less like a database and more like a living collection. You could follow people, see what they were listening to, discover albums through taste instead of charts, and carry a huge catalog across web and mobile before that behavior felt normal. And yet, when the music streaming market finally became the future, Rdio was not one of the companies that owned it. That is the strange part of the story. Rdio did not appear to be a company that misunderstood the product. In many ways, it understood the product extremely well, but it was building in a market where the best experience did not automatically become the biggest business. Rdio launched in 2010, backed by Janice Fries and Niklas Zenström, the founders behind Skype and Kazaa. That mattered because these were not random outsiders. They had already seen how the internet could change communication and media distribution. Kazaa showed the demand for digital music access, even if it came through a legally risky model. Skype had shown how a simple internet product could become a global habit. So Rdio started with a serious idea. Music was moving away from ownership. People were no longer going to build their entire identity around files stored on one computer or albums purchased one by one. The new product would be access. Open the app, search almost anything, press play, and keep listening wherever you were. At launch, Rdio offered access to millions of tracks from major and independent labels. It worked on the web, on computers, and on mobile devices. The pricing was simple: a lower-cost web plan and a more expensive plan for web and mobile access. The business model seemed logical. If listeners paid monthly, Rdio could create recurring revenue. If enough people subscribed, the company could pay music rights holders, fund the product, and grow with the shift from downloads to streaming. But Rdio's real difference was not just access, it was taste. Most music services treated discovery like a search problem. You wanted a song, you typed the title. You wanted an artist, you searched the name. Rdio saw another layer. Music discovery is social. People do not only find music through databases. They find it through friends, scenes, communities, and people whose taste they trust. So Rdio built a product around that behavior. Users could follow other users. Listening activity became part of the experience. Albums, playlists, and recommendations moved through a social graph. It felt closer to walking into someone's record collection than browsing a digital warehouse. That was a smart insight. It gave Rdio personality in a market that could easily feel cold. It made the product sticky for people who cared about albums, discovery, and identity. It also gave the service a different emotional position from older subscription platforms, which often felt more like utilities than culture. From the company's perspective, this focus made sense. A streaming service with no personality would be easy to copy. A streaming service built around people, taste, and design might create loyalty. If users came not just for songs, but for the way the service helped them discover music, Rdio could become more than a catalog. And for early adopters, that worked. The problem was that music streaming was not only a product category, it was also a scale war. Every streaming company needed licenses paying the people and companies that controlled the music. That created a brutal business reality. Rdio could not simply grow like a software company with tiny costs for every new user. Every listener existed inside an expensive system of rights, royalties, infrastructure, and negotiations. That meant small could be beautiful, but small could also be dangerous. At the beginning, asking people to pay for Rdio did not seem irrational. The company was offering legal access to a huge music library. The product had real quality. Mobile streaming was valuable, and subscription revenue looked cleaner than giving the product away and hoping to monetize later. But the timing was difficult. In 2010, many listeners were not yet trained to pay monthly for music access. They had paid for CDs, then downloads, or they had used free alternatives, legal or not. The idea of paying every month for music you did not own still required a behavioral shift. Rdio was asking users to cross that bridge early. Then Spotify entered the US market with a different kind of force. Spotify did not just compete with Rdio as another app. It changed what many users expected streaming to be. Its free tier lowered the barrier. You could try the service without deciding immediately whether music streaming was worth a monthly bill. From Spotify's perspective, giving away access was expensive but strategically powerful. Free was not just a price, it was distribution. It put the product in more hands, created habits faster, and gave users time to become dependent before asking them to pay. Rdio's paid-first approach looked disciplined. Spotify's free approach looked riskier. But in a market where the hardest challenge was getting millions of people to try a new behavior, riskier became more powerful. This is where Rdio's strength started to reveal its weakness. Inside the product, Rdio had taste. Outside the product, it struggled to become unavoidable. That distinction matters. A great interface can make existing users happier. It can improve retention. It can create love. But it does not automatically create awareness. It does not automatically explain the product to mainstream customers. It does not automatically produce the cultural momentum that makes a service feel like the default choice. Rdio was admired by people who found it. Spotify became the name people heard. And once that mental category begins to form, the challenge becomes harder. A smaller company is not only fighting for users, it is fighting against the feeling that the decision has already been made. For Rdio's leadership, the path was not obvious in real time. If users loved the product, improving the product felt rational. If design was the advantage, refining design felt rational. If social discovery was the differentiator, making the experience deeper felt rational. But the market was rewarding something broader. It rewarded free entry. It rewarded aggressive marketing. It rewarded playlist culture at scale. It rewarded brand recognition. It rewarded the service that could become a habit before users compared every feature. Rdio was polishing the experience while competitors were building distribution machines. The company eventually recognized the problem. It needed reach. It needed a way to bring more people into the funnel. And that led to one of its most interesting moves, the partnership with Cumulus Media. Cumulus was a major radio company with hundreds of stations and a large advertising infrastructure. On paper, the logic was understandable. Radio still had mass reach. Rdio had a modern streaming product. If old media promotion could push listeners toward a new digital service, Rdio might solve its awareness problem without building Spotify's kind of marketing machine from scratch. This was not a foolish idea. It was a deal shaped by pressure. Rdio needed distribution. Cumulus needed a digital future. Both sides had something the other lacked. The partnership also helped Rdio move more seriously toward ad-supported listening, which could bring in users who were not ready to subscribe. But the deeper problem remained. Radio reach was not the same as streaming adoption. Hearing about a service was not the same as installing it, using it, building playlists, following friends, and making it part of daily life. Rdio did not need temporary attention. It needed durable behavior. And by that point, the market was becoming more crowded. Spotify had momentum. Apple was moving deeper into streaming. Google was present. Pandora already owned a huge audience in internet radio. These companies had advantages Rdio could not easily match: capital, platform access, installed user bases, brand recognition, or some combination of all four. Rdio was still a better product in the eyes of many fans, but the business had entered a phase where being better for some users was not enough. The company needed to be bigger for millions. The numbers eventually exposed what the product could not hide. Before bankruptcy, Rdio carried heavy debt. Reports at the time described around $190 million in secured debt and about $30 million in unsecured debt. Its monthly subscription revenue was far below its operating costs. Advertising revenue was not enough to close the gap. The company was burning cash in a market where survival required scale. At that point, the story stopped being about taste. It became math. The music catalog still had to be paid for. The team still had to be paid. The technology still had to run. The market still demanded promotion, and every month without enough scale made the company more fragile. This is the cruel part of streaming economics. A service can have users who love it and still not have enough users to survive. It can have a beautiful product and still lose money on the path to becoming large enough. It can be early to the future and still fail before the future becomes profitable. In November 2015, Rdio filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection and agreed to sell key assets to Pandora for $75 million. Pandora was not buying Rdio as a thriving consumer business. It was buying technology, intellectual property, and talent. The Rdio service itself would shut down. That ending says almost everything about the company. The product had value, the team had value, the technology had value, but the business system around them had broken. Rdio did not disappear because streaming was a bad idea. Streaming was the right idea. It became the dominant model for music consumption. The tragedy, from a business perspective, is that Rdio saw a version of that future clearly, but did not build the machine required to own it. Its mistake was not one single decision. It was a mismatch between product excellence and market structure. Rdio was built for people who cared deeply about the experience. The market rewarded the company that could make streaming normal for everyone. Rdio treated music discovery as a refined social experience. The market rewarded the platform that could turn discovery into mass habit. Rdio tried to convert quality into loyalty. Its competitors converted free access, marketing, playlists, and distribution into scale. And in music streaming, scale was not a vanity metric. It was the condition for survival. The lesson is not that design does not matter. Design mattered. It is one reason people still remember Rdio at all. The lesson is that in a market with expensive rights, powerful suppliers, and network-like consumer habits, the best product does not win just by being the best product. It has to become the default. Rdio helped show what modern music streaming could feel like, but it never became the place where most people felt they had to be. And when the future finally arrived, Rdio had already run out of time to own it.